What's up, guys? Welcome back to the infamous project. We are finally gonna get started with the Godzilla swaps. So if you guys tuned in to a previous video I tried to outline some of the differences and combinations that you can look for if you are attempting to do a Godzilla swap, whether it's a Foxbody, an old F100, or any hot rod project that you might have. So I've actually got two 2023 motors sitting here behind me. So 2023s do have a couple little differences that I explained in that video versus the 2022s and older, but here they are on the engine stands and pretty much factory outfitting, right? Or how you would get it if you got it maybe from a wrecker or anything else. So we got wiring, we got accessories, we got belts, we got all of those things on the motor. Compared to if you got a crate motor, you'd be actually missing quite a few of the elements that you see here. So the first thing that needs to be done is the cam swaps. So got my table here, got two brand new BTR, Brian Tooley Racing camshafts, the truck Norris camshaft, which has actually been proven to add 100 horsepower over factory, meaning that just that cam swap and these motors alone are gonna get us to well over 500 horsepower. So excited for that. We got some of the key tools that are required for, camshaft requires a special socket, of course. We got some new bolts for our crank, and very important here, we actually have the VCT Lockout for the phaser, so that way there's no discrepancies with our timing or anything like that. So first things first, we need to pretty much disassemble a lot of what we see here. So that's going to include getting some of the wiring off. We need to get the intake manifold off. We need to get the accessory drive. So that way we can get access to the front timing cover, pull that off, and then ultimately we can get access to the camshaft. So you're going to see a couple things. There's a couple different ways that you can do it. The lifters in these motors do stay put if you're lucky and you do things very carefully. I've seen some guys turn the motors upside down so that way the lifters won't potentially fall down. And there's another option, which I have these handy dandy tools right here, which these can go down and they have magnets and they can help you hold your lifters up while you're performing your task. And I actually got these with a Mustang that I bought once upon a time, and these have been outfitted to work potentially in various applications such as a Godzilla. So pretty much just some all thread with some wing nuts, some heat shrink with some magnets, heat shrunk on the bottom there. And that's an option if you want to go that route. But aside from that, guys, this is going to be a pretty straightforward procedure, right? The exhaust manifolds will come off and they're going to stay off because we're going to be going to the ultimate headers. And then of course, we'll pull the harness off because we'll be running a Ford control pack in one instance. And then we're going to be running a Holley Terminator X in the other instance. A lot of this emission tubing and everything else will all be coming off. And in fact, the one intake will never be going, well, both intakes won't be going back on. We're going to have a Holley low ram or low rise intake manifold on one. And there's going to be a Harrop supercharger on the other, which I'm really excited for. And we'll be doing the Holley accessory drive on the one motor as well, so it'll kind of clean things up. And then we're going to see what we need to do with the Harrop application if we need to get into some custom bracketry or a different timing cover or whatever it might be. So there's a little bit of an intro. We're gonna clean some stuff up, and in fact I might wrap it up for the day and just film this intro, and then we'll get into tearing down and whatever else when I get back to the shop and start showing you guys some of the pull apart process and go from there. So stick around. straightforward in terms of getting all the wiring and the components off. Just take your time, and if you're not sure where stuff goes, make sure that you're organized. And you can see right here behind me, got motor 1's stuff here, motor 2's stuff there, and then we got a bin of all the misfit parts that we are no longer going to need, i.e. ECMs, exhaust manifolds, some wiring, miscellaneous hoses and stuff that will no longer need apply. So 2 different setups, as I mentioned before, and the main difference is one of these motors is actually going to retain this factory timing cover with all the factory accessories. And for anybody that was curious, all of this will fit in your Foxbody, including the AC compressor. I believe there might have been rumors going around that the AC compressor wouldn't fit, but it in fact does. This side over here with the alternator gets a little close to where your battery would be in the battery tray, but we're not concerned about that because the battery is going to be relocated and there's going to be tons of room in the engine bay for this guy. Now, one thing that's really important is oil pans. So oil pans need to get changed so we can get adequate clearance for the Foxbody, and also to make sure that we fix the stupid pulse modulated oil pump signal that makes these things idle at 6 pounds of oil pressure. And well, we've got the first kit here, which is the complete Holley accessory drive and oil system. And this is the whole shebang, which includes new accessories, AC compressor, alternator, power steering pump, water pump sitting somewhere. Here it is. All your belts, your pulleys, idlers, brackets, new dipstick tube, new oil pump setup, and everything that we need to make sure that we're lubricating properly. And well, this is going to be a really nice, tidy and clean look at the end of the day, right? Everything is nice and black and looks nice. Oh, I was looking for this O-ring for the Hydro Boost and I found it. Stick it over there. So that's going to be one of the setups that we're going to be working on today. So an important fact here, if you guys want to run this oil pan from Holley, you need to run this timing cover. So if you're wondering if there's other options, well, here's other options sitting right here. A beautiful piece from Crowbar Customs. And I actually showed off some of Ralph's other work right back here. He makes these cool intake pipes that bolt into the factory airbox opening in the engine bay of your Fox. Specific, whether you're doing a Coyote, well, it doesn't really need to be anything. As long as you want something cool like this, it's coming out of the fender well and you come up with the rest of the piping. Well, Ralph has got you covered at Crowbar Customs. You can see I've got 3 of these things back there all ready to go, because I have a feeling that after these few Godzilla swaps are done, the channel is going to be pretty much focused on Godzilla swaps going forward, and I'm 100% okay with that. I've already gone into why I favor the Godzilla over the Coyote, because not only are you getting 7.3 liters of displacement, it actually takes up less real estate, being that it's push rod, meaning we don't have these huge valve covers that are coming out to like here because of the dual overhead cam setups. Things are smaller and tidier and more displacement. So, and it's not going to sound like a Coyote. Most important thing, right? So that's pretty much it for the intro. Like I said, the oil pan from Crowbar Customs will allow us to run this factory timing cover, but we're going to start with the most difficult motor first, and that's going to be the one that's going to get the whole Holley setup and high mount accessory drive and everything else. So we're going to need to do a couple things. We're going to do the cam swap first, which means we're going to have to pull the timing cover off. We're going to have to pull the valve covers off and get all the rockers loose and everything else. And you guys might be wondering about lifters and everything else. We'll talk about that in a minute once we get to that point, but let's start ripping some stuff apart. Timing cover off. The factory pan is actually, there's no O-ring or fancy gasket. They actually use silicone. So Get rid of some of the loose stuff here. Here's the front of the motor. Here's the chain that drives the oil pump. So in case you guys are wondering, the oil pump's actually chain driven. Chain tensioner. And this is our VCT unit. So all this will come off and show you guys how to lock that up. But right now, I need to look at and see the orientation where this all needs to be. So there's a line here you want both yellows to be at, and you want that yellow to be up there. So I guess we'll get to rotating this thing and see where we end up. So timing cover is off. There's timing marks on the cam sprocket and on the crank here. So the cam sprocket, you kind of want it just before 9 o'clock-ish. And that will kind of give us a good pre-position to get things started. So what I'm going to do now is going to pull off the chain drive here for the oil pump. Actually, I'm going to pull the valve covers off. We'll get the rockers off real quick so that way they're out of the way. And then we'll start taking the oil pump sprocket off, then the chain tensioner off here as well. So let's get these valve covers knocked out. That's my little pin here. Oh, lock the tensioner up in place here. See a bit of oil coming out of that. Okay, so now you could actually slide these down and get them on the lifters to hold them up. And funny enough, they are already spun to length. So just to be safe, I'm putting these on. You can feel the magnet catch the lifter at the bottom. So it's sort of like, if you guys want to make these tools, just a one time, like I said, some all thread, a little bit of heat shrink a magnet onto the bottom. And once you have this set, it'll be in the perfect position to hold those lifters up. And then you don't need to worry if, actually, this one needs to be spun a little bit. There we go. As soon as you can feel that drag on the magnet, you're pretty much good to go. Then you don't have to worry about a possible lifter falling down on you. All our parts laid out within reason, so we know what goes where. Front of the motor, one bank, front of the motor, second bank, and everything is good. So now we'll open up our camshaft box here, get the cam lubed up, pull the old one out, put the new one in. Okay, old cam out, looks good. I don't see any fallen lifters. Need some leverage. There we go. Camshaft in. So camshaft's installed, got the cam plate back on there. So now we need to deal with the VCT unit. So I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do the VCT lockout with this little wedge here. It's pretty straightforward. A couple things you guys need to know. You don't want to just go opening this thing up without knowing what you're doing. So let's get into it and show you guys what's up. There's 4 bolts. You're going to notice there's this little, I don't know, wedge or marker, if you will. So that's important to note because you don't want to loosen this guy all the way. You just want to loosen it enough so that we can rotate things. These guys, this is a T30. So these two come out normal, at least should come out normal. There you go. And this guy is spring loaded. So you pry him out. You'll notice this one's longer than the other two. Now, what we want to do is rotate this, and we want to be careful of this guy right here. That's spring loaded, and you don't want that to go flying out. What we want to look for is this 3 that's marked here. And we're going to take this guy and just watch that. Drop it right in there like so. And we'll just go with a little bit of blue Loctite. Spring to go the other way. There. $11-ish foot-pounds. He says, Brian Tooley says it's about 16 Newton meters-ish from factory. We'll put the VCT, the cam sprocket back on. So there's a little dot right there where the single yellow line goes. And then on the crank sprocket, there's a line that's going to straddle between these 2 yellow dots. So we will get the two yellow dots lined up. And come on. Right there. Stay. And there is a keyway. Okay, so I want to make sure that the cam goes on the keyway, which it is. I want to make sure the sprocket is on the keyway properly. So, next step, 40 foot-pounds. And it's kind of a weird procedure for this, guys. So we'll put our tool in there. Hold the sprocket in place. So it's 55 Newton meters, but what they want you to do is get it snug. Then they want you to back it off. And then they want you to torque it down again. And then they want you to turn it about 30 degrees. And then they want you to check your torque wrench that it's no more than a certain amount and then no less than a certain amount. You guys can do that however you feel comfortable with. And I'm going to do it how I feel comfortable with. So to me right now, this cam is installed.